when you fear. There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, hollow on the inside, there's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me, like the world defines me, image of what I have become.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Buckeye Beat Podcast, National Championship Edition. Ohio State won the national championship over Notre Dame this past Monday. We are here to talk about it, and man, what a special season. What a special season. And honestly, it didn't even start when the football season started. I mean, what was going on around this campus going back to the summertime? You had revival breakout on campus. You had players on this team leading people to Jesus, changing lives, doing great things around campus. And then this team, right? Season starts. This team is on a high note. Bam, you lose to Oregon. And it's like, okay, now what? You regroup. You get back in motion, get things going again. Things are looking great. Boom, you lose to Michigan. Then what? Now you're not in the Big Ten title game. A lot of questions. And then you have an unbelievable playoff run. An unbelievable playoff run where Ohio State goes on to beat Tennessee, get revenge against Oregon, beat Texas, and then win the national championship against Notre Dame, all by double digits. What a year. What a special year. What a special team. Joining me, as always, today, one Mr. Michael Cozy. You were there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
How was that?
Okay, so, I mean, we'll talk about the championship game, and I can get more into details and things like that. Look, I think it had a little bit more of a special feel because I know we played Notre Dame 2 years in a row in a home and home, but like everything was up for stake. Like Notre Dame hadn't won a title since '88, so it was kind of like it was just wild. The fact that like they hadn't won it in so long, and we had went through like 10 years, and I mean. Look, now this is our third title since basically the turn of the century. You break it
Since I've been alive.
If you break it down, in 23 years, this is our third title. Like, that's wild to think about.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure like the only people who could possibly have more of that or more or less like claim to a program that's powerful and dominant is Alabama. Other than that, we're like the second most powerful program since the turn of the century, which is wild because we hadn't won a title since 1970, and then you now have put out 3 in 23 years. Look, I mean, the season overall, it is a sad one to be done with because everyone came back and they didn't meet their first 2 goals. But with the new playoff format and everything like that, I think you had 12 teams. You met your playoff goals with the 12 teams. That's the cool thing. It's like, you had your chance to redeem yourself, and everyone say, oh man, it's watered down. Oh man, it's not 1 versus 2. Oh man, we had 7 versus 8, and everyone wants to talk about the viewership and things like that. And it's like, look, I think that there's so many ups and downs, and you're depending on 18 to 22 year olds every single week to go out there and just put their best foot forward, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to have times and places where they don't have a good game. And sometimes it could be collectively, like it could be one person who doesn't have a good game, and it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 players that don't have a good game on that same day. Look, I think like there's a lot of times where Ohio State goes out there and they can out talent everybody. A team like Michigan, yeah, we probably should have been able to out talent them, but we just didn't have a good game that day. Like that's just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like everybody played bad on that offensive side of the ball. And all they needed was one play in that game, and they got it, and that propelled them to a win. But I love the playoff. I'm a proponent that they should maybe even expand it. And everyone's like, "Oh man, that waters it down. That waters it down." We can dive into it a little bit. Yeah, let's just go into it right now. With this whole 12-team playoff, we had no teams who got a bye get a win. I think you need to change maybe that up. But I think that every team who won a home playoff game carried that momentum with them. And every single home playoff atmosphere was awesome. From Notre Dame to Penn State to Texas to Ohio State. Like everything was awesome. I mean, the night game where Tennessee fans thought they were going to take over the stadium, and they all got in there early, and there was a decent amount of them. That probably the most I've ever seen from a visiting fan base. But it came when everyone doubted us. Like, I can tell you going into that game, it was more or less like, it was almost like Tennessee fan base lit a fire under us as a fan base and got us all hyped up, got us all into this game, and got us really rolling. And I think the team fed off the energy from the fan base. And once we beat Tennessee, I think everyone was like, okay, go out to the Rose Bowl. Go take care of business in the Rose Bowl. And, I mean, we haven't done a podcast since before the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
That Rose Bowl game, the only game I can remember going anywhere near perfect was Wisconsin in 2014. Like, that's the only game that I can think that was like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. There was never really like, everyone wants to be like, oh man, it was 34-15 at one point. And I'm like, even at that point, they still took 7 minutes off the clock to drive down the field. And they were using little small chunk plays, 3 to 4 yards to get their first down, to get their touchdown. And it was just like, they're not going to be able to do that. Like, unless we turn the ball over, we're winning this game easily.
And the thing about that Oregon game, the second time around, they were healthy. The first time around, they had players missing. They were banged up. And Ohio State, squeaky loss on that game. This second game, everybody was good for the most part. And it was apples to apples, best on best. And we wiped the floor after beating a good Tennessee team the week prior. And that's what makes this run, and I know we're talking about it, but that's what makes this run so special. These teams that we beat weren't scrubs. No. Like, bro, these were good, real teams. Tennessee's good. Oregon's good.
We can throw it out there right now. Oregon wiped the field with Michigan. They made Michigan look like a junior college team. Like, I mean, they wiped the field with everybody all year. If you go back and look at Oregon started out slow. I'll give them that. But if you go back and look at Oregon and the way their season went, they were kind of hitting a stride. I mean, they were the only undefeated team in the tournament. That was number one. Number two, they started out slow with Idaho, Boise, and then they got rolling. I mean, they were steamrolling people into the Ohio State game. They beat us by a point, and then the only other close game they had was at Wisconsin at night and they got out of there with a win, and they cruise controlled everybody else. I mean, we can look at the Big Ten title game. It was 45-30, and Penn State scored with like a minute left to make it an 8-point game. And it was like, okay, like we get it. Like, this is good Oregon team. And then Rose Bowl, boom. One thing I think is, and we were talking about the expansion of the playoffs, Oregon played on December 7th, and then they didn't play till January 1st.
Yeah.
Ohio State had the same type of break, but so did Tennessee. So did everybody else. Then there was a 3-week break for Oregon, 3 to 4 week break, almost a month for Oregon to have off. Excuse me. Look, that had to have some type of effect on them, because it was like all their momentum was gone, and everybody's momentum was gone. Boise State had no momentum early against Penn State. Arizona State, I thought they were getting run out of the building in the first quarter. I mean, Texas scored on 3 plays into the game on their offense, and it was like, oh, here we go. And then they threw a pick 6, and it was like, well, this game's over. And Arizona State fought back, and then you look at it. Look, I get it was another delay because of the whole New Orleans thing that happened, which that seems like a lifetime ago with how many games we played.
Yeah.
Notre Dame just dominated Georgia, and granted, Georgia didn't have their starting quarterback, but like, I look at this playoffs and I think, we're getting close to going to 16. No more byes. You're going to have 8 home games. The top 8 seeds get a home game, and we're just going to move on from there. And people who want to be like, oh, man, you could get a champion that's 3-4 losses, all that kind of stuff. And I want to be like, okay, but you know what that does? If you put a schedule together during the season, and you can get 3 losses, non-conference at the beginning of the season is going to be awesome when that comes out. And it's going to be two top 5 matchups every single week, two top 10 matchups every single week, probably like 6 top 25 matchups every single week. And you're going to see like a lot of these teams, you might see 4 to 5 teams now in with 3 losses instead of only Clemson, who won their conference. Like,
yeah,
if you have a non-conference schedule and you have a very slate that's like very cutthroat, I think the committee is going to be more favorable. I mean, how many times do we see where you have a committee and they look at the other team's schedule? I can tell you right now, if SMU didn't play BYU at the beginning of the season and they hadn't beat them and they were playing the conference championship and had lost with their 2 losses and made it 3 losses, Alabama would have been in. Everyone wants to say, oh, we're that. I think we're heading towards 16 teams. But other than that, I mean, on to the semifinal game, which was...
Well, I on the point you're making, I think it's just proof that anybody really has a shot. Yep. I mean, this Ohio State team, 2 losses. Let's go back to the 4-team playoff. If Ohio State had 2 losses, we would be outside looking in, and we would have nothing to really support us getting in.
I actually disagree with that. Well, we would have been the 5. We would have been in the old format. We would have been 5 because they did penalize teams for losing in the conference championship. We would have been. We would have jumped Penn State. We would have been 5, and Notre Dame would have been the 4 seed.
Yeah, but point remains, like the fact that this playoff moved into 12 teams, it gives good teams the ability to afford a slip up. Not saying you can have multiple, but look back at that Alabama team that had 2 losses, snuck in the playoffs, won the national championship. Right now we go to a 12-team playoff. You have an Ohio State team that's rolling everybody, loses in a really close loss to Oregon early on, has an absolutely mind-numbing loss to Michigan, but they're still in. And then you go on a tear. You go on a tear where you beat a good Tennessee team, you beat a good Oregon team, a good Texas team, and then Notre Dame. For me, I think in this playoff structure, this was obviously the first year. For me, I think there needs to be a reseed. I think there needs to be a reseeding because you saw the left side of that bracket, Texas, Clemson, Ohio State, Oregon. There's a lot of heavy hitters. And it's more of a testament to this program for what we did. But that right side, man, you had SMU, you had Boise, you had Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame. Like, bro, take one or two of the left side, throw them on the right side. Like what are we doing?
Reseed, the reseeding would have probably had what? The 1 seed would have been Oregon, obviously. 2 seed would have been Georgia, which is fine. Your 3 seed then would have been Notre Dame, right? No. It would have been it would have been Texas, right? Was Texas the final 3 seed or was it Penn State?
No, it was Boise. It was Boise.
No. But what I'm saying, if we did the reseed.
Oh, okay. Dang, that's a good question.
I don't remember what it was.
I don't know. But point being, it would have been even.
Very much so.
Which I think that's the one takeaway from this new playoff. It was not even. This bracket was not even at all.
No, it was not. It benefited us because I would have rather played Oregon in the Rose Bowl in the second round than in a national title game. So it did benefit us. That was the end all be all that benefited. I mean, that's where they need to change. And from what I've heard, they're not going to change this year. It's probably going to be the 2026 season. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. But what fascinates me this whole playoff run, right? You saw some of these smaller schools get in, your Arizona States, your Boise. I guess I wouldn't count Indiana as a quote unquote small school, but a school that typically wouldn't get a chance. And a lot of these games, were they not close? Yeah. But at the same time, it shuts a lot of people up, right? You're getting these schools in, you're giving hey, go win this game, right? You're in the playoff, go win it. Which I kind of, initially I was of the viewpoint, I think 6 or 8 teams is what it should have gone to. But now when you look at it from the big picture perspective, right, you're still going to have schools on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, we had 3 SEC schools that were 13, 14, 15 seeded that were just PO'd. And by the way, a team never talked about, Illinois beat South Carolina, and South Carolina was one of the teams that was all up in arms, and it was like, maybe Illinois should have been the team that was bitching, not South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And then, not to give them credit because we hate them, but Michigan wiping the floor with Alabama.
It wasn't even a close game. It was a lot closer because Michigan just literally could not do anything on offense. But Jalen Milroe looked terrible. I mean, and let's just hope our other team doesn't draft him.
I hope not,
because it was raining and he couldn't hold on to the football. It was one of the, I don't know if you watched it, one of the funniest fumbles I've ever seen. They could have played clown music for it, but on to the semifinals. We went into Texas and we beat Texas.
Texas, Jerry World against Texas born and raised Quinn Ewers against his first team. And
it was a great game overall. Maybe one of the better games I've watched in whatever. Look, the main play of this, hands down, that really changed the game was the Travion Henderson screen pass. And I'm not quite sure what Texas was doing on that play. Like, I don't know why they just the blitz package they sent was so bad and so terrible. Like, I'm just like, guys, there is 13 seconds left in the half. If we're throwing the ball, we're throwing a screen. Like,
Yeah.
um,
But you got to give credit. Got to give credit to old Billy Buckeye on that one, because he held on to that ball till the
Yep.
very last second. Blockers got out in front. That blew that game open. I know the score wasn't necessarily like blowout, but it was at that point in the game where all
that
momentum,
was
all momentum
even when
changed.
Texas tied it up at 14. I still was like, okay, like, we're the better team here. Like, we're gonna do something. What a play call on 4th and 2 when they finally ran him, and that was definitely a design run for him. And then you just here's the thing that was weird to me was Texas got all the way down to the 1 yard line, and it seemed like they were going hurry up, and they got all the way down there, and then they ran. Like, I think they had the ball for that possession for like almost like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, something like that, before the strip sack. But it seemed like they got down there in like 2 minutes, and then like they were just like very content with like, okay, let's slow it down. Let's see what we have. Don't know about the pitch play. Like, still like mind blown on the pitch play.
Well, I get it. So, okay, here's the thing. On that play in particular, I understand from a schematic perspective, like, you're not going to run on Ohio State between the tackles. I understand trying to get the ball to the perimeter, but I don't know if you heard, Joe Klatt even talked about this, and he was like, when you're on the goal line, regardless of personnel, regardless of those sort of things, you're on the goal line to go in and tie this game, right? To possibly go to the national championship. And the play that you choose, you're starting behind the line of scrimmage. You're not just, here you go forward, see what you can get. You're literally throwing it backwards and saying, all right, hope you get it. That's all well and good, but there's a kid, number 2, on that side of the ball that murders people for doing that.
First off, you literally ran it to his side. That was the number one mistake you made.
Stupid.
Like, I was like, thank you so much. And then you have the scoop and score, and when they scooped and scored, like, you knew it was over. And then just a cherry on the top, Quinn Ewers throwing the pick six, or throwing the pick to Caleb Downs. I mean, dude, it was just all in all an awesome. You get to the championship, you're playing Notre Dame, 2 historic programs. I mean, ticket prices certainly said that. Over $5K. Like, tickets, that was the minimum, over $5K, not the average. That was the minimum. And look, they were crazy before that. They were like 2,500. Day of the game, they went up to $5K.
My buddy, not you, my other friend who was there, he paid over $3K.
Yeah. So, but now to the championship and the experience. Being there, we all talked about it, and it's starting to get like very corporate-y events. And which I heard other people say that it's, with how ticket prices are, it's a very corporate event. Like, you're having people who are very lucrative, who have went there. That's their only game of the season, and that's fine. It still has that college feel, though. You had the bands. You have 2 traditionally powerhouse bands, basically. You had students there. You had tons of alumni who were there. I sat in standing room only, and I sat next to a Notre Dame graduate who graduated 2 years after I did from Ohio State. It was a cool experience from that standpoint. I had a great view, could see the whole field. It was great. it just had this feel like every single play was like a new game in itself. Like every single play was just like, okay, let's get loud every time they're out on defense. And I'm talking the whole stadium. No one sat, everyone stood the whole game. I remember watching, there was a section that was like right below us that you could see, and they do commercial break and the whole section would sit down, and immediately as soon as they would blow the whistle and be back on TV, the whole section stood up again. And it was like no one was complaining about standing. I could see like everywhere, though, like I said, I could see every single viewpoint of the stands except for like one small section from where I was standing. um it, like I said, every single play felt like a brand new game, and you had to win that play. Um, After the first drive, 10 minutes, 18 plays, I kind of said, I got text messages from people going, well, Riley Leonard looks dead. He looks dead on the sidelines. He's throwing up. He literally did the whole wristband point to the thing, walked off the sideline, and someone said he just started puking. And they're just like, he's done. He's dead. Like he's not functioning. He's not going to function the same way the rest of the game. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like, is he something wrong with him? Like, they're like, no, like nothing's wrong with him. They just ran him so much that drive. And it's like they almost dumped like all their eggs into one basket to start the game.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, we're going to go out and take the lead. And then it was like they couldn't stop us. They just they could not stop us.
That opening drive, I know there was a lot of people, who are Ohio State faithful who were terrified. I was never like watching the game. I was never like, oh, it's over. Here we go. But it was a little alarming because obviously we didn't get to really preview it. But going into the game, the only way Notre Dame really could win was to make Ohio State play the game they wanted, the same way that Michigan won, the same way that Oregon won. And Notre Dame did exactly that. They come out, they're running the ball, they're physical. Riley Leonard, doing what he did in the game against Penn State in crunch time, converting. That is all they did that first drive, just finding ways to convert. They eat up over half of the first quarter on the first drive of the game. Like, bro, the way that Marcus Freeman and the way that Notre Dame offense came out, chunk by chunk by chunk by chunk, great, awesome. Like, that's what you have to do to beat this team, to beat an Ohio State team that's as explosive as we are. But there's one problem. This isn't college football 25. You're not playing with a controller. This is not, you're not playing PlayStation. Like, bro, these are real people. This is real life. And I got a ton of respect for Riley Leonard, man. That kid has a heart of gold. He's a great dude. But, man, he went out there. And, yes, it was the first drive. And there was a long ways to go. But, bro, you could see it every single play. He was putting everything he had into it. But that was the downfall. So, you cannot sustain
one thing I want to say is, so we go down the field, we score, right? They get the ball back. And it's 7-7, and we're like early second quarter at this point. One of the loudest cheers of the whole game, they called holding on Notre Dame. Now, why is that significant? That was our first holding penalty against the opposing team since Western Michigan. Which is, I had to laugh because it was like, okay, like we finally got a holding penalty, and the guy next to me even was like, "Why are you so happy about a holding penalty?" And I'm just like, "You don't understand." And then I told him, and he's like, "That's not real." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Yeah. I'm like, we just went like 12 games without a holding penalty called on the opposing team.
Bro, it's like Myles
Yeah.
Garrett. It's like getting a holding penalty
Yeah.
called against Myles Garrett. Or not against, but you know what I mean. It doesn't
No,
happen.
it doesn't.
Well, it just doesn't
But
happen.
here's the thing: when they got the holding penalty, they went 3 and out, and we went down the field, 10 plays, like it was like I think almost 80 yards, and it was like in like 8 minutes. I was like, it might have been less than that, maybe 6 minutes even. I was like, okay, we got this, and then you score right before the end of the half, and you up 20-7.
Now, I want to go back because we forgot one key
Yes.
thing. That first drive, Ohio State's on
Yes.
offense. You go down. What play does Chip Kelly pull out of his ass? The Devontae Smith 2021 National Championship, where Devontae comes in, comes out, and just does sort of
Yep.
like a half wheel route, dump off, take it to the house, which is crazy because I think everybody who is truly a college football fan, in that moment you're like, where did I see
Yep.
that from? And that's exactly what it was. And what a big brain
Oh, yeah.
moment. I've had my gripes with Chip Kelly this season. I know there's a lot of people who aren't the biggest fan of him. But to be able to pull that out, drive one,
Yep.
right? Notre Dame comes out, do what they do on drive one, and that's how you end it. And who does it go to?
Jeremiah.
The man
Yep.
himself, Jeremiah Smith.
That was an awesome play call. Look, I mean, once we got through the first half and we're up 21-7, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a pretty good game, hopefully. And then the second half starts, and the second play of the second half, Judkins breaks one, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is going to be a slaughter. I thought it was. Like, I think everyone thought it was.
Mhm.
Even Notre Dame fans, because they just stood there and they were just like, this, yeah.
It's over.
Um,
Yep. And what a playoff he's had,
Oh,
by
yes.
the way. Let's just
Yep.
take a second. Quinshaw Judkins, like Travion Henderson as well, but Quinshaw Judkins, man, a guy who came over from Ole Miss, committed to, or let's see, when did he commit to Ohio State? It was after,
Right.
Was it after
it
the
was
Michigan game?
literally right after Michigan won the national championship. He posted
Yes, okay.
2 minutes after Michigan won the national championship that he was transferring to Ohio State. 2 minutes.
Yep.
And basically did it to kind of steal the like championship vibe Michigan had going. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was one of those things where, like, as a Buckeye fan, you really appreciate that.
Yeah. But what impressed me so much about him, bro, it wasn't even the stats, right? When you look, especially in the Texas game, he didn't have crazy stats. He didn't do anything numbers-wise that was crazy. But the effort that you saw from him and Trevion in this playoff run, like, Quinshaw Judkins was a man on a mission. And in this game in particular, yes, he had the big runs.
Yeah.
But what you saw from Jeremiah Love,
Yep.
right, in the Notre Dame Penn State game, just the grind and the effort. To me, Cozy, that is what you saw in this Notre Dame game from Quinshaw Judkins.
And here's the thing, Judkins, we also forget, like, right before the half, he got wide open in the end zone and Will found him. I mean, that was a great throw
Yeah.
by Will. But I mean, you start the second half and it's just like, okay, we're up 28-7. Penn State got a little desperate. Or sorry, Penn State. Notre Dame got a little desperate. I don't know that I would have went for it at my own like 33-yard line. And I'm not sure I would have passed for it on 4th and 2 from my own 33-yard line either. And not the way like just the way they passed for it and went for it on the fake punt and everything like that. It's like, just leave your offense out there. And you know what?
Yeah.
I remember saying, my buddy even said, he goes, you called this. He goes, they rushed the punt team out there like after the offense was sitting. I'm like, this is a fake. This is a fake. This is a fake. Like, I kept saying it over and over and over and over. And when they did it, he was just like, how did you know? I'm like, because they just lined up in a weird formation that they haven't done yet. Like, they just gave it away. And
Yeah.
I was just like, what are they doing? Like, it was almost like, and at that point it was 28-7. We kicked the field goal up 31-7. And at that point it was like, we kind of took our foot off the gas.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if I don't know if you remember this, they did come out and they went right down the field and scored, but at that point it was like, okay, like we need to. Well, you know what? I disagree. We didn't take our foot off the gas. The main problem is we went down the field and we fumbled the ball.
Yep.
And when we fumbled the ball, it was like, well, shit, here we go. We're going to be in a dogfight. But I'm going to tell you what, their field goal kicker, he's had trouble all season from, for some reason, 20 to 30 yards. Don't know why. Um, that was one of the loudest roars of the night when he hit the upright. Because I think everyone kind of felt like, okay, it's pretty much over.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about how big of a moment
Oh.
that is, right? Ohio State, all game long, dominant.
Yep.
I mean, yes, Notre Dame scored first, but from that point on, it was just all Ohio
Yep.
State. Notre Dame comes out of the half, and they're showing fight. They're coming
Yep.
back. And at one point, it was like, okay, like you said, this might actually come to a tough finish. He goes out. That is like a must make.
Yeah,
field
I mean,
goal.
so a lot of Notre Dame fans around me were mad that they didn't go for it, and I'm like, well, look, it's 4th and goal from the 9-yard line, and the one person next to me said, yeah, but he might miss this field goal, and I was like, well, he might. He struggles from 20 to 30, and then he hit the upright, and they were just all dejected. And at that point, I thought, okay, there's no way they're going to rally. But credit to Marcus Freeman, credit to Riley Leonard, got the troops back, rallied, got the defensive stop. We punted, which was a big win for them because we hadn't punted all game. And it was a great punt by Joe McGuire. Like, dude pinned him back deep. But then the defense just decides to play lackadaisical almost. I mean, you gave up a 33-yard pass that I was just like, oh boy. And that's when you kind of saw it turning. And then you give up the 30-yard touchdown pass to Greathouse, which, by the way,
I was about to say,
could have been an interception. It was great defense. Was even better catch. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
He's a stud, bro. He had a very lackluster regular season, but that kid's got another year. I don't want to say guarantee, but he's a minimum 2nd round pick next year.
And I'm pretty positive. Did I see that he's transferring though?
Whoa.
I'm pretty
really?
sure I saw that.
I don't know, but the run that he had, first of all, the route that he sauced whoever that Penn State corner was in that game. Broke the first man's ankle, turns around, goes downfield, bam. Next time, safety's on the ground. It's like, bro, he had a crazy playoff run and a great game in this game.
It's not him who's going, but there is a Notre Dame player that is.
It's the center.
Well, yes, they're losing 2 offensive linemen. Yeah, they're losing 2 offensive linemen. They're losing another wide receiver who's like down the depth chart, though. That was it. So,
okay.
But it's one of those things where this is the new college football era. But I mean, let's wrap up with this game. Look, I'm going to tell you what. After it got to be 31-23, it was like very nerve wracking. You had a lot of stuff riding on it, and then we get to a 3rd and 11. And, everyone's like, you just can't describe unless you're there because, like, you watched it on TV and, like, yeah, it's awesome. And I can tell you when the ball left Will's hand, I'm pretty sure my heart dropped. And then I saw Jeremiah. And I just started screaming, he's open, he's open, he's open. And every Notre Dame fan around me saw that he was wide open. Because where my view was, I had a view down, basically, I was on the Ohio State sideline, essentially, right in line with the out of bounds line. And I just saw him break free, and I should have known he was going to be free because I didn't even. I can tell you this: like I normally watch the play, I normally like scan the field. I didn't do that before that play. I literally was just like nervous, didn't know what to do. It was 3rd and 11, and was just kind of standing there. And now I've seen replays, and I'm like, I should have never been nervous because they left him out on an island 1-on-1. And Will was going to deliver it. I knew he was going to deliver the pass, and it was just like, just put it on the money. And Jeremiah almost broke it for a touchdown, didn't, but we got far enough in. And let's just say this: good story on this. Good feel good story if you really want to talk about it. Jaden Fielding. Boots it through after probably, I'm not going to say that it happened, but probably someone death threatened him after the Michigan game. He probably beat himself up, knocks it through, gives us an 11-point lead. And at that point, like the celebration had started. There was a little nerve-wracking moments there because it was like, okay, well, what if they block it? Because they blocked like 6 field goals this season. And they weren't even close to blocking it. Like, that's the thing. But you had the 2-minute timeout, and I kind of felt like they weren't going to be able to block it because the way that their team walked off the field was so dejected that it was almost like, okay, they know it's over, but it's really not over. But they know it's over. And it's like, good on Marcus Freeman, though. Like, you gave it your all. You gave it a fight back. Man, it was so special, especially with the seniors who they haven't beaten Michigan yet. They all came back to do it. They all could have. All these seniors that are like 4th-year seniors could have went back or could have went to the NFL last year. They were all going to be drafted. Like,
yep.
It is just amazing that most of them, like the top players, not obviously depth chart pieces and things like that. It was really, really special. Just to see them develop things like that. The only regret is we only get 1 year of Will Howard. And that is just, I could not imagine if he had come here right out of high school, what we would be talking about right now. I think you're talking about a completely different Buckeye perspective. Yes, maybe CJ loses both games, but if Will Howard starts last year, I can guarantee you this year we go undefeated. I could almost guarantee you because it was just so perfect of an ending. I don't know. Jim Tressel said it perfectly earlier, and Will Howard reiterated it. God gave me the chance to be a Buckeye, and man, is it awesome. Man, is it awesome. Like, just, and like, I can tell you 90% of the people walking out of there had tears in their eyes. Like, this thing meant a lot to us because I think when we lost to Michigan, there was a very gloomy outlook on this program. And a lot of people were thinking, okay, what are we going to do? And you know what? Here's the thing. We lost to Michigan last year. Kyle McCord had transferred, and there was a very black cloud over this program. Maybe the worst bowl game I've ever watched us play, ever. And I mean ever. We lost 41-14 against Florida in a national title game, and we gave more of an effort than when we lost 14-3 to Missouri. Honestly, Ryan Day deserves all of this. I will be the first to admit it. I was like, dude, you got to beat Tennessee. You almost need to win a national title. And he went out and did it because I wanted him gone because I was not happy about his performance against Michigan. And Michigan still matters. Like everyone who keeps saying Michigan doesn't matter. Michigan doesn't matter. This proves it.
Yes, it
does.
It
still matters. But a national championship trumps Michigan. So.
Yeah. On Will Howard, I just want to say, Billy Buckeye, what a special player in Ohio State history. And there's obviously many players on this roster that won a national title that we're going to look at as legends in the lore of Ohio State football. But Will Howard, man, he was hooping in this game. 17 of 21, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I said it prior to this game. I said, Will's not that great of a quarterback. Riley Leonard's not that great of a quarterback. But the one thing that makes the both of them very special is their heart and their will to win. And I'm wrong. Will Howard is a good quarterback. Yep. He is a good quarterback. And that doesn't mean that he has the strongest arm. That doesn't mean that he's the most accurate. That doesn't mean anything like that. But what it means is there are certain players that are outstanding leaders and they uplift everybody around them. To me, I see, and this is not the best comparison, but I see a lot of like Drew Brees and Will Howard, right? A guy that is a field general, spreads the ball out, and what he did this year at Ohio State, bro. Coming into a program, at the level of Ohio State at a time where, like you said, there was that cloud of darkness, man. Yeah. Kyle McCord sucked. That season sucked. And there was little hope, but everybody came back. And he was the new guy. He was, can you really take charge of this team? Can you lead this team? And it wasn't perfect. There was trials and tribulations. Like I said, Oregon, Michigan, the injuries on the offensive line, the different problems that this team had. But for him as the leader of the ship to really take control, take command, and keep everybody going and in the right mindset. Yes, you got to give a lot of credit to Ryan Day, but for me, there's one thing that really sets you apart, right? Great coaches are great coaches because of decisions.
Yep.
Great players are great players because of execution. And for Will Howard to do what he has done in this playoff run is nothing short of spectacular. We're talking 17 of 21, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns in the national championship. I'm going to stop you
right there. He broke a college football championship game record. He had 13 straight completions to start the game. 13 straight completions to start the game. He was 14 of 15 at halftime. I mean, which means we only threw the ball 6 times in the second half, too. Like, that's the other thing. We were so efficient even running the football because we still put up points in the second half. We know that.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how many yards he had on the ground?
He probably had about 88.
He didn't have that much. He was second with 16 carries for 57 yards.
Okay.
But every carry mattered.
Yeah.
Every carry mattered.
I mean, and that's the thing. So, look, he's definitely going down as like one of the better, like he is in Buckeye legendary history of quarterbacks. And it's funny, someone said to me, well, do you put him in top 5 in the past 15 years? And I'm like, from a standpoint of like legendary status, yeah, you have to. Is he a top 5? Is he top 5 best quarterbacks we've had talent wise, arm talent wise, things like that? No, but he might be the second best leader I've ever seen our teams have. And our best leader, which we would all love to have, and I'm going to do my shot way, way into the future, JT Barrett will be the head coach of this university at some point. JT Barrett will be the head coach here at Ohio State at some point because he is the ultimate leader. Do I know the future for Will? No, I don't. I think he can be a great NFL quarterback. When I mean great, I don't mean elite. I mean great game manager. He's not going to go out there and be the next Peyton Manning or something like that. He can be good. but I don't. I'm not saying he's Hall of Fame. He's not. We're not going to get crazy, but at some point, Will Howard will be a great or a great coach, whether it be college or the NFL. I think college kind of fits more his style. Like I said, he's more of a leader, and it was definitely proven. For all those people, I would just like to say to Kyle McCord, it all comes full circle, bud, because you were super happy in that press conference when we lost to Michigan. It all comes full circle, bud.
Yeah, that it does. And how you talk about a real full circle moment. How about the fact that Ohio State, first 4-team playoff national champion, decade later. I didn't even realize it. I was 12 years old last time we won a title. That's crazy.
Now you're 22. So
I'm 22
10 years
old.
We won't say how old I was.
You were at least, what?
Yes,
86?
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah, no,
that's what I thought.
25 the last time. And I mean, it's kind of nuts and crazy because the first time in 02, I was 13. Yeah, 13 at the time.
Not even one.
Yeah,
I was alive.
I was 13. So I've literally remember all 3 national championships. Look, everyone wants always say that this Ohio State Michigan rivalry has swings and sways and things like that. And I think this is the first time we've really experienced like a one-off win by Michigan and stuff like that. Which Michigan fans who are older than I am or around my age, they still remember the 90s where we would have that one-off win. You got to look, this trumps it, but I'm going to call my second shot. Ryan Day as our head coach will never lose to Michigan again.
I think I really do believe there's something to that. I think this was a mental block. I think it's nothing to do with skill. It's nothing to do with talent, coaching ability. It's mental. And I could argue the same for the national championship. He talked about it. How many times have we gotten this close? Ohio State should have won the national championship with CJ Stroud. Like, that's just a fact. Should have won it. If that kick goes through, we're talking another national championship. But close doesn't cut it. You know, we've gotten so close so many times now. And finally you do it. And you do it on a path that is borderline impossible. And you pull it off. I think now Ryan Day as a head coach has a totally different perspective and mentality. And also, one of the things I wanted to mention, how valuable for a guy like Julian Sain, who might end up being the starter next year, watching this. Tavian St. Clair coming in early, being there to see this run. All these guys who are young and who are a part of the future of this team to see firsthand. And I say specifically with the quarterbacks, we just got done talking about Will Howard. What I admire most about Will Howard is him as a person. Like we said, his leadership, his accountability, his effort. He does everything the right way, on and off the field. He's unashamed of who he is. He's unashamed of this team. And to have that leadership, even if it was just 1 year, to have that leadership, to be at the prime front and center for Julian Sain, for Taven St. Clair, for all these other guys, that are young and on this roster. Hell, for Jeremiah Smith, right? Even though he was a freshman and did what he did, he's got 2 more years. He's got 2 more years. So these guys have been able to see what it's supposed to look like. The good, the bad, the ugly, how you overcome, how you get through it. And that, to me, is so valuable. So valuable. But
I don't really have much more. I'm still kind of floating around. I haven't come back down to earth yet. I can tell you there was a lot of souvenirs that were taken from this trip that are very cool memorabilia. That was all free,
Yeah.
and some stuff is Notre Dame stuff, and it'll always be just a feather in the cap of, hey, it's pretty cool. When I look at it, I'm like, man, awesome experience. It's like nothing. I've never experienced a sporting event quite like the national championship. I can say that. I've been to a Rose Bowl. I've been to a playoff Sugar Bowl game that was semifinals. Nothing compares to what I experienced on Monday night.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful that I'm at an age that I can really appreciate this team and really, really get a full, complete understanding. Because, man, to see what this team as a football team, what they've gone through, what they've done, and like I said, to see what God's doing in this program, just on a human, personal level, impacting all these guys, right? This is not just something of like, oh, this is a great team. This is a team where these teammates, they're brothers forever, right? This is a young team. This is a veteran team at the same time. But the one thing that really defines this team, they've been through war. They've been through the good. They've been through the bad. And ultimately, it ended dripped in gold, Ohio State, your 2024 / really 2025. I don't know why they do that, by the way. If you can see, says 2024, which I get it. That was the season. But
and I'm pretty sure mine doesn't even have a... Yeah, it does. Yep. 2024 National Championship.
Does that say 2024? Nike, get it together. Okay?
And you know what the weird thing is? At the event, they all had 2025 signs. Yeah. So, not quite sure what we're getting at, but...
It's weird.
Hey, you know what? Weird. All I know is it says undisputed champs. That's it. That's all.
Let's go. And I just since we're wrapping up here, I legally now can say this. For everybody out there, I just want you to know, I saw this shirt a week prior to the national championship game. And if I had to go through seeing what victory would have looked like and then it not have happened, brother, I would have been on a tear. I would have been just livid.
And
for
what
months.
Did I tell you when you texted me that? I said, don't show it to me. Don't say what it says. Don't do anything.
I know.
But
all in all, what a year. What a year. Thank God that there was one team of a football team in the state of Ohio that got us through. And because the Browns suck. If you're a Bengals fan,
I'm sure we will be back in a few weeks with some information. It might be a short one, but we may have some shockers happening. Just a hint.
Yes, indeed. I've heard the same. I know what you're alluding to, and it's something we'll talk about for sure. But with that being said, everybody, obviously this podcast hasn't been going on forever. This was something we started this season. And what a season to start it. I want to say thank you to everybody who was with us. We're still growing this, obviously. But thank you. Thank you. Go Bucks. Like it, comment, let us know what you think. What did this playoff run, what did this team mean for you as an Ohio State fan, as somebody who, if you went to this school, if you went to the program, whatever, share your story. What are you going to remember? What are you going to remember from this time? So, go Bucks, everybody.
Go Bucks.
OH. There we go. National champions. See you in the next one, everybody.